All right, everybody, welcome back to Southern Discomfort. I'm your host with the ghost, the paranormal pastor Ezekiel Kincaid, and I've got Dustin here with me running stuff in the background, and I also have the Winnebago Queen.
No.
There, Bethany, here with us.
I will wreck that thing.
No,
hey, everybody.
No, you won't.
Yes, I will.
We're going to wait and give folks time to hop on and let people jump in chat so we can say hello.
Can I ask you about 50 times what you're going to talk about tonight?
I'll just ignore you.
You do anyway.
I'll just pretend that you're not there, or I'll mute you.
Like you do every night.
I'll mute you. I have the power. I am the control booth.
No. Technically, Dustin has the power.
Dustin and I have the same access. So.
God help us all.
You know he and I think alike. So. You're outnumbered tonight, Blondie.
Yeah, that little monkey that bangs the cymbals just dashes between both your brains.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But no, I see we got Chairman there. Hello, Chairman. Thank you for joining in.
Chairman. Yo, baby.
I believe that is Dustin.
No.
Chat.
No, there's PPR and Yo Baby.
I know, we have them both connected. See? Look at the comment.
Comment.
See? I'll pull it up there to show that I'm right.
Okay, enough. Jeez. A typical male, let's, highlight, I'm right. Let me just throw a parade. Let me just, have it written in the sky.
If you're on a computer, then it has an option. You can click it, and it would only do the PPR comment. But on a phone, you don't get the option. So since it's a duo shared to both, and we're helping our sister out, it does both comments.
Well, yep. I can still say hello to Yo Baby.
You still can say hello to Tanya. She'll be watching, and Vickie will be watching too at some point. So, hey, ladies.
Hello, sister. Hello. Oh, Mississippi, so hot. How you doing, sister? Oh, I just love you, sister.
So, well, tonight we are going to be continuing our study on psychic phenomenon, and we're going to be looking at precognition and prophecy, and we're going to kind of be dividing it into two shows because it's a little too long to fit into one. So we'll have a brief show tonight, and then we'll do another brief show next Tuesday night to make sure that we get everything covered. So I see we got Brad 32. Welcome to the chat, man. Glad to have you with us. So we are going to wait just a little bit longer, then I'll do a couple announcements, and then we will get into the teaching aspect on precognition and prophecy. But I know we had a good group tune in last night as we talked about Octagon Hall and the experiences that we had there. So if you missed last night's show, it's up on the channel. Be sure to go back and watch it and hear about all of the cool stuff we had happen when we were at Octagon Hall, leading the investigation for them. Which that reminds me, we have another novice hunt coming up in October, that first weekend. I believe it's the 6th and 7th of October. We'll be PPR team. We'll be leading the novice hunts. We'll keep you updated. I know Bear and Octagon, they're having trouble with the website and stuff. But once they get those tickets up, we're going to let you know when those are available and how many there will be. And so you'll hear us talking about it once that's made available in the weeks to come. But go ahead and start making your plans because it's just over a month away. and September's going to go by quick because August is almost over. So be looking for that announcement. Also, for everybody who is in chat tonight and who either gives us a like or shares this out, at the end of the show, what we've been doing every week while we are on the subject of precognition and prophecy, at the end of the show, we're taking everybody's name who was in chat and either liked or shared it out, and we're putting you in a little raffle, and the winner gets to pick the story of their choice from my Southern Discomfort series on Godless. So the winner will be able to pick which story they want. I'll send you a free copy, but that's not all. Every one of the winners at the end of this series is going to be entered into another drawing, and that winner is going to receive ebook copies of every single one of my works that I have to date. So that includes all my novels, all my novelettes, all my Southern Discomfort stuff that I have out right now, a bunch of short stories. So you're going to get a whole lot of stuff. But if you don't win any of these things, there's still a chance for you to win all of my works. All you got to do is go buy a copy of Johnny Walker Ranger Demon Slayer Volume 2. All right, the second one. You buy that on Amazon and screenshot and send me your purchase. And then once you're done reading it, review it, screenshot that and send me the review. And then I will send you free copies of all of my stuff. So if you don't win in the drawing, the way that you can win all of my stuff for free, or most of it, all you got to do is buy a copy of Johnny Walker Ranger Demon Slayer Volume 2. It can either be the paperback or Kindle, but it must be from Amazon, and you have to leave a review. Once you send me that you've done that, then I will send you everything that I have written thus far in my writing career, all horror related. So yeah. Hey, Bethany, you want to ask me what we're talking about tonight?
You know what? You killed the mood. No, but go ahead. What are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about precognition and prophecy.
So we're talking about precognition and prophecy?
Yes. Hello, Teresa. Thank you
Hello,
for
Teresa.
joining us tonight.
We're going to be talking about precognition and prophecy.
We are. So the format's going to kind of be a little bit of the same. I'm going to give you a little background about it. We're going to talk about the laboratory testings and stuff that they've done to show how the odds against chance stack up. And then next week, we're going to get into looking at it from, because everybody knows usually who's on the show or watches or in chat knows that I'm a pastor and Christian theologian, and so that's my jam. So what I'm going to do is next week kind of take all that we've talked about and kind of put this into a theological perspective and look at how this influenced or does it influence the biblical concept of prophecy and visions and things of that nature. So I'm going to tie a little theology into this as well next week. But tonight, we're just going to be looking at precognition and some of the laboratory testings that they have done. Now, a lot of the parapsychologists, when they start to break this down, we've talked about this before, there's a lot of overlap between clairvoyance, telepathy, and precognition. And precognition is basically a knowledge of future events. And the debate among parapsychologists is, how is that knowledge gained? And that's what begins to dabble into, well, is it gained through telepathy? Are they reading thoughts of somebody? Or is it clairvoyance? How is all of this relating? And so this precognition of future events, it has to be precognition in the sense that it comes through no known process of the mind or other senses. Okay, so this is getting down to pure precognition. If we say that no other process of the mind, so it can't be any type of knowledge that you've already had, and it can't be using any other type of mind interaction as well. So pure cognition, pure precognition is without any known process of the mind or other senses. So the existence of such a phenomenon, along with everything else that we've talked about, clairvoyance, remote viewing, seems to involve some sort of ability that these people have to project their consciousness outside of the bounds of time as we experience. Now, that's important, time as we experience it, because during this teaching on precognition and prophecy, we're actually going to get into some philosophical discussions of what time actually is and how it is experienced. So we are going to branch off into that a little bit. We're not going deep down the rabbit hole, because you can go down the rabbit hole with stuff like this. What I'm wanting to do for folks is just kind of lay a basic good foundation of these certain phenomena and give you some science to back it up. Because I know there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to things such as telepathy and clairvoyance and precognition. And some of us who has experienced it, we believe it because we've encountered it. But I believe it's also helpful for us to have hard evidence for people who may be skeptical, or they may be kind of teetering on the edge. Like, is this just, fanciful thinking, or is there really something legitimate to this? So having some scientific verification just leads more credence to what we experience. That's just how I approach this subject. So precognition, they're able to project their consciousness outside of how we experience time, and they are able to have some type of knowledge of an event that has not yet come to pass. So when parapsychologists speak of what we call genuine precognition, going back to what I was saying earlier, they are suggesting that there are some events that may resemble precognition at first, but after further examination, they can be explained in other ways, either through telepathy, clairvoyance, or even through some kind of previous knowledge. So in order to have pure precognition, there was a guy by the name of Alan Vaughan who came up with some guidelines in his book called Patterns of Prophecy. And these are the guidelines that researchers now go by to determine if something is pure precognition. Before I do that, I just want to say, hey, I see PW. Hey, PW. Hey, Kenneth. Welcome. So Alan Vaughan, in his book, Patterns of Prophecy, he lays down these guidelines, and I'm going to read them to you. I wrote them here in my notes. And this is how they determine genuine precognition. There are 7 of them. So number one guideline for precognition: the prediction must be told or recorded before the fulfillment. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer, right? You have to have it recorded before it happens. You can't go back and record it after the fact and claim precognition. Number 2, it must include enough details so that chance fulfillment is unlikely. So in other words, you can't just you have to be pretty descriptive in what you are seeing or what you are prophesying about. It can't be a generalization. Number 3, it must restrict itself to fairly narrow limits of time, else it must contain details which fix the occasion of fulfillment of, like, visiting a certain place. So it has to be within a fairly limited window of time. You can't just say, oh, at some point, or, you know, maybe such and such. There has to be a specific time that you give this precognition of when it is going to happen. The 4th one, it must be of such a nature that inference from wider knowledge could not have brought it about. Okay, maybe you had a wider knowledge of something over here or something over here. Like that all has to be ruled out. If it can be linked to something that maybe you had wider knowledge of or access to something that you could be privy to, it will not count as genuine precognition. All right, that will debunk it. The 5th thing, it must be clear that suggestions or unconscious knowledge could have not brought it about. Okay, so maybe there were subliminal suggestions going on. Maybe somebody was trying to lead you and give you hints. All right, if they see something like that, it's automatically debunked. It does not count towards genuine precognition. Number 6, the information must not have been in the possession of any other person. All right, that means nobody else could know about this information in a way that it could leak out to you. So I hope you're seeing, we started off broad, and then these guidelines are getting more strict as they go along and ruling out any possible knowledge source whatsoever. The last one, it must be possible to exclude telepathy and clairvoyance of a present event or psychokinesis as reasonable explanation. All right, we've talked about telepathy. We've talked about clairvoyance. We haven't gotten into psychokinesis yet. That's mind-matter interaction, able to influence matter with your mind. We'll talk about that a little more towards the end of this series, because that's what's going to be lying on the other side of the door of this. That'll be kind of the last thing that we look at in this series. So those 7 things, and you can see they're very, very strict qualifications and guidelines that they have to go through. And if you want more detail, all right, I'm going to give you one example of how they do some of the testing for this. But some of the stuff is really, really complex. So if you want more than what I'm telling you, I say this every week, get Dean Radin's book, The Conscious Universe, especially this chapter. Why? Because Dean Radin himself, these are the tests that he specifically runs. He does precognition testing at his place. So he goes into a whole lot of detail about some of the things small things they do to test for precognition. It's gold. But tonight, I'm just going to kind of give you some of the broad things that link back to some of the other testings that we have talked about here. So, I'm going to leave out some of the stories. There's famous anecdotal stories about Gene Dixon and JFK and Abraham Lincoln and stuff like that. You can look those up online and see the debate around those about whether or not they're pure precognition or if there was some sort of influence. But those are famous cases that parapsychologists debate I just wanted to throw that out there because you will come across these case studies with Gene Dixit and JFK and Abraham Lincoln. They're almost in every book, every study about precognition. I'm not going to rehash that here because that information is pretty much everywhere. So what we're going to get into is looking at the testing, the laboratory testing of precognition. So in 1989, a man by the name of Dr. Charles Honorton, that's Honorton, him and another psychologist named Diane Ferrari, they published a meta-analysis of all forced choice experiments on precognition. All right, now if you remember what we talked about, a meta-analysis, it's going back and discovering the first ever precognitive test and looking at every single one done all the way until the present day, which for them was 1989. That's a meta-analysis. So what they did is they went back and they conducted a study between 1935 and 1987. They looked at every precognitive test. And they looked at the forced choice precognition study. And if you don't remember what forced choice was, it's when a person is asked to guess which one of a fixed number of targets will be selected later. So they only have a certain amount of targets to pick from. And they pick one of these targets and they say, yes, this is the one that is going to be chosen later out of the pile of cards. So those targets could be like colored lamps. They could be the Zinner deck. They could be face on a die. They use all of these things in forced choice experiments. Later on, what they would do is they would do randomly selected targets. And if the person's guess matched the selected symbol, this counted as what we call a hit. And in a lot of these studies, immediately after the person guesses a symbol, the target is randomly generated back and is then presented as feedback. This kind of, when we get into the dice study, this kind of gets into psychokinesis, and they tried to determine if was the person really having precognition and seeing the number on the die before it landed, or were they actually able to influence with their mind and cause the die to land on that number. We'll get more into that later, but that is one of the things that they had to weed through in some of this testing. So basically, as they went on and they do this meta-analysis, and they begin to look at all of the early studies from the decks, and when they were shuffled by cards, when they were shuffled by machines, and then the later ones when electronic circuits were used to randomly generate a picture after the fact, after the precognitive person already said this is what's going to come up later. A random picture would come up, and if it matched, then that would be a hit. And they had all of the same controls in place, like the experimenter didn't know the person being tested. The person generating the stuff in the other room didn't know the tester or the person. So it had all of those same controls in place to keep everybody separate, to make sure that those guidelines were being met and that no knowledge was leaking or nothing was subconsciously being given to the person being tested. So Honorton and Ferrari, they wanted to look at, was there evidence for precognition in these studies that were done. And the overwhelming answer that they found was absolutely. So out of all of the experiments they reported, in the forced choice precognition test, they found 309 studies, and they found 113 articles that reported some of these studies that were published from 1935 to 1987. And there were 62 different investigators that contributed to these studies and articles. And the database consisted of nearly 2 million individual trials from this time period by more than 50,000 subjects. So they tested a lot of people. And they looked at all the ranges like the ESP cards, computer-generated stuff, the automated things. And another interesting fact here I wrote down is that frequently, the most frequently used participants were college students. And I thought that was kind of interesting, and wondering why that was. 40% of the studies, 40% of the people in the studies were college students. The least frequent experimenters, the least frequent people were the experimenters themselves. They got themselves tested. They made up about 5%. So all of this methodology, all of the different ways that they tested it through all of these decades, what they found is the combined result of 309 studies. Are you ready for this one? 309 studies produced odds against chance of 10 to the 25th power to 1. That is 10 with 25 zeros behind it. 10 to the 25th power against 1. I don't even know what that number is. 10 million, billion, something. But 10 to the 25th power to 1. Odds against chance. That precognition through all of these studies was verified in a laboratory testing. Again, to remind you what precognition is, these people were guessing the target before the target was even known. And they replicated this so many times in studies between 1935 and 1987 that the odds against chance were 10 to the 25th power to 1. That is astronomical. And so this research blew them away when they came across it, and it's been published, and then they tweaked the numbers some, like, because in some experiments you would have numbers that were really, really low. Some experiments that you had were really, really high. So even what they did, they said, okay, well, let's be fair. Let's take out the really high numbers and the really low numbers. And even when they did that, you still had odds that were like 1 billion to 1 or 1 million to 1. It was something crazy like that, still odds against chance. But when you take in every single test that was done, even the ones that had the most hits, and even putting the ones that had the worst results, you still get an odds of 10 to the 25th power to 1 against chance. So that is the laboratory testing of precognition. And like I said, Dean Radin in his book goes in and he talks about different computer tests that they do at his lab that he has, how they collect the data. So you'll get a lot more stuff and a lot more current stuff when you go read through his book. So if those of you interested in this, say it again, I'm almost pushing this dude's book as much as I'm pushing my own. That's how much I love this book. get it. It is worth it simply for the scientific facts and the testing and the backing and the research that he has done for this type of stuff. So I'm going to pause it right here, and we're going to see, there might be a couple more things we might go on to tonight, but I want to just stop it right there to see if anybody has any questions or comments just about the data we just talked about. Blondie, you got anything? Okay, she's quiet. She must have gotten lost. I'm gonna go through some of the comments on chat here and see what y'all have been saying. Let's see, we got the Bud Files was in here. Yeah, PW mentions Joan of Arc. I'm trying to get it to show up.
Okay, don't. I had my headphones on. I was listening to you, and I couldn't find the phone to unmute it so that I could respond. Not a word. Nobody say a word. Just ask a question. Just forget what I said. Just go ask questions.
Well, I was asking you to ask. For you to...
That was why I couldn't find the phone to unmute it. I had my headphones on. I was listening to you, and I'm like, where is it? Okay, so basically, to sum up, these studies are kind of still debated.
No, the studies are not debated. What I was mentioning is they used a lot of the similar controls and the things that they used when they tested telepathy and clairvoyance. The difference is for testing for precognition, they were having people pick the target before the target was even known to the testers.
Gotcha. Not funny, Dustin. I saw the Avies. Go ahead, Z. Sorry.
What were we talking about earlier? And you were saying that would be me and Dustin.
It was one of the videos that I showed you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We were watching some YouTube videos, and she was like, "That would so be you and Dustin doing that to me."
Well, because everybody else had beautiful intro music, and hers was just like
fart sounds.
Yeah.
So, now one of the
go ahead.
Really interesting things that we looked at is especially when you get into psychokinesis and the mind-matter interaction. And it's going to be cool when we really start to look at some of these studies. So this, don't want to jump ahead of myself too much, all right? But psychokinesis is the one that people really, really balk at. Like, okay, really, your mind and your consciousness influencing matter? Yeah, right. Like, that's some Stephen King, Carrie, Firestarter stuff. This is X-Men type of stuff. Now, the thing that they were trying to determine in the precognitive studies, especially in some of these events where people would describe natural disasters happening on a specific date to the T, you know, a long time before they had ever happened. You had some people in the extreme say that, well, you know, how do we know that that is not psychokinesis. Now, I want you to think about how terrifying a thought that would really be, right? If somebody could realistically cause natural disasters with their mind, and it was PK and not precognition, like for me, that is way, way, way extreme. Okay, and we're not going to that extreme. All right, so when we start talking about psychokinesis in a couple shows to come, we're not talking about X-Men level stuff. We're not talking about Stephen King, Carrie Firestarter type stuff. Like all of that is exaggerated. Now there are some way, way out there in the parapsychology world that would try to argue that, but from what they have done with some of these precognitive testing, a lot of the more sound parapsychologists have ruled all of that out and said, no, man, this fits into precognition. People aren't causing these things by their mind. So if that's a fear of yours, then you can calm down. The thing that we will get into next week when we start to look at precognition and prophecy is we're going to get into, because one of the things parapsychologists are trying to figure out, right? They've done the testing, the evidence is there, but that still leaves the question of how. How are they gaining access? How are they gaining knowledge of future events before they happen? And that gets into theories of time. It gets into how our consciousness experiences time, and can it get outside of time as we experience. This is going to get into what's called the block universe theory among philosophers and scientists that say the past, present, and future all exist at the same time. And there's some type of way in which the consciousness can come out of that and take a slice out of the block universe and see where it's at and that time period that's going to happen. We're going to get into a little bit of A time and B time and talk about what those mean. And then we're going to jump to biblical prophecy and look at, does biblical prophecy fit precognition, or is it something much more grandiose, and does it blow the idea and the standards of precognition out the water to make it something so much more and so much greater than regular precognition, something that can only be revealed by the Spirit of God. So what we're going to get into next week is going to be really fun, because it's going to be looking at debating between the natural ability and parapsychology of precognition or a supernatural evidence of God being involved. So that's going to be a fun discussion for next week when we get into time and biblical prophecy. But I just wanted to use tonight to kind of lay the foundation before we dive off head deep into next week's topic as we continue precognition and prophecy. Let's see if I missed anything in chat.
I'm surprised you didn't mention psychic dreams and precognitive dreams. Prophetic dreams.
Yep, that is another thing we can start that discussion tonight if anybody wants to. Because I was definitely going to give time here, but we can go ahead and jump to that. Anybody in chat who has had an example of precognition or precognitive dreams, or stories of anybody who has had those, feel feel free to share away. We'll also open time next week for that as well, in case we have people come next week that missed this week. So
I have a story, but it didn't happen to me. It happened to a great aunt of mine. Her son and his fiance were killed in a car wreck when they were coming back from class. They were in college at the time. And in the days leading up to the funeral, she kept having nightmares about the car accident. And she kept seeing Sandy's engagement ring was way too big for her finger, so they were getting it resized. So in the meantime, she wore it around her neck. And when my great aunt would have the nightmare, she would always see the necklace break off on impact and fly into the back seat under the mat. She kept having the same dream, and a couple nights in a row, she sent her other son out to the junkyard to look at the car, and sure enough, where she saw it underneath the mat in the back, that was where he found the ring. And when they buried her with the ring, the dream stopped. And again, I don't know the validity. She swears that's exactly what happened. And because again, when they pulled the bodies, they did not find her ring on her. So that's the only story that I really can think of.
Yeah. I have a couple stories I'll share, but I'm just going to put this up here real quick. The PW mentioned...
Here's my lovely PW, my beautiful witch.
Deja vu. Why isn't it? I can't get it to come up. There it is. Yes, deja vu is mentioned as some sort of precognitive experience. Unfortunately, with deja vu, it can't really be tested in a laboratory setting, but yes, deja vu, a lot of parapsychologists do classify that under precognitive experiences. So thank you for bringing that up, PW. Now, I have had some instances of precognition and prophecy, and I'll share one of them with you. One of the ones that I think was most powerful. So my father passed away in 2017 of a very rare autoimmune disease called vasculitis. And it was a disease that took a hold of him slowly, and just it eats away everything in your body. All right, it eats away at your organs, your muscle, your bones, your tissue. My dad went from being 6'2", 230 pounds to crumpled over like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, weighing like 120 pounds. That's how much this disease did to his body. And it was in 2001. I had a strong knowing. I don't know how else to explain it. And I couldn't shake it. And I had to tell my dad, and it was very difficult. I told him, Dad, I really feel like I need to tell you this. And I said, I don't know if this is God or what this is, but next year at this date, you're going to be diagnosed with a terminal sickness. And, my dad didn't know what to think at first. And, he didn't really believe me. And, he was trying to be the good dad. Okay, son, thank you. Probably thinking like, oh my God, my son is off in the deep end. And I as that time drew near, I was dreading it. And the night before, I remember thinking, okay, tomorrow is the day. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. And my dad just happened to be going to the doctor that next day. And that's when we got the phone call that he had this, and he had something really, really wrong with him. And that was a very, very solemn and surreal experience. And I've tested it under all of the test of precognition. And it passes. There's no way I could have had knowledge of this. No way. I knew that my dad was not showing any signs of this disease at that point. Nothing was wrong with him. He was in great health. So that for me was there's been others, but that for me was one of the hardest ones, and one of the most impactful ones to this day. Just knowing that you knew that your father was going to be diagnosed with a terminal disease that would eventually take his life around 15 years later. And it was hard watching him over the years suffer with that disease, but I got to stop talking about it. But it was definitely an impactful one. So.
Are you okay?
Yeah. But it's when you have experiences like that this stuff is real, because it hits so close to home, and there's no other way to explain it. And you see and you experience these things that are inexplainable. And it's been stuff like that I've experienced that has always drawn me to the paranormal and the supernatural. It's not just something that is an intellectual study for me, though I'm an intellectual person, and though I like to present the intellectual facts to show the validity of things like this. It was all birthed from very personal experiences for me. And so it's when you experience stuff like that, you cannot help but be on a lifelong search to investigate these things and to understand them, because they do impact you in a very, very profound way. And it's been similar instances when on other instances, and I don't know if I haven't tested some of these other examples to see if they would really fall into precognition. But on the one extreme, I knew when people were diagnosed with cancer or terminal diseases that they were going to be okay, that they were going to be healed. And there was one instance where a coach of mine, his daughter was diagnosed. They just found brain tumors out of the blue in her head. And he called me over just broken. He's like, "Will you please pray with me? Please pray for my daughter." She was 6 or 7 years old at the time. and little kid, she didn't know what was going on. She just knew somebody that her dad coached was coming over to talk to her and pray with her. So we did that, and I looked at him, and it was just the knowing I had. I said, God's going to heal her. So this brain tumor is going to start shrinking and go away. And as they went to the doctor, the first few times the brain tumor was getting bigger, and they thought they were going to have to put her on chemo or do surgery, and they were going to determine that upon the next visit. And when the little girl went back to the doctor, they noticed that the tumor had shrunk a sizable amount. And she went back again and again, and eventually, after a few more visits, the tumor had totally disappeared. So, I've seen precognition on both sides, the hard side and then the rejoicing side of it. So those are just a couple examples in my own personal experience.
Yeah, actually, as you were describing that, I remembered my dad. He was a Vietnam veteran and a lot older than my mother, but when he was in the service, he said he could smell death, and he just knew which soldiers were going to come back and which ones were never going to come back.
Yeah.
But he described a smell. He said that death had a very distinct odor.
I believe that. Yeah, PW, lucid dreaming, definitely. We've talked about that when you like with lucid dreaming, and even when you get in sensory deprivated states, it's something that happens with freeing your conscious, and you're able to somehow get in touch with this other realm and this knowledge. And so that is definitely one way is lucid dreaming that happens. Do we have anybody else in chat that has had any? Hey, Izzy, welcome. That has had any precognitive experiences or precognitive dreams? I know my daughter Emma has had some precognitive dreams. Oh no, Izzy, you're not interrupting. We take time out no matter what we're doing to say hey to everybody who pops in. It's pretty informal here. I know Emma has had some precognitive dreams, and maybe I can get her to to share those next week on the show. She is busy at the moment, and was not able to join us tonight. Let's see, anybody else? So while we wait in chat to see if anybody else has any precognitive experiences or dreams they would like to share, or stories that you know of people who have had it. Next week, for those of you who are just joining in, we tonight just kind of talked about what precognition is. We talked about the parameters, the strict parameters that they have to define pure precognition. And then we looked at the laboratory testing and the odds against chance. And all of the testing, when they did the meta-analysis of every test done for precognitive ability, the odds against chance were 10 to the 25th power, an astronomical number. So next week, we'll get into the discussion about precognition as it relates to time. And we're going to look at the difference between precognition and biblical prophecy as well. So next week will be more of a philosophical, theological talk, but still we will take time at the end for people to share any experiences or thoughts or any more questions that they may have on the issue. But we are going to go ahead, unless anybody else has anything they want to say about this. Bethany, do you have anything else you want to add?
I'm thinking.
I'm thinking. Don't hurt yourself.
You know, I think I'm starting to have a premonition now of a certain redneck writing jerk and
What's going to happen to him?
A beat up Winnebago that's on fire because, you know, they just started it.
Does he have a mask like this one?
Okay, just forget it. Forget it.
I'm having a premonition about a Winnebago popping up on the screen, Dustin. Let's see if that happens or not. Certain Winnebago that is in Bethany's future.
Okay. That's not even a Winnebago. That's just a...
Yes.
The missing wheel.
There it is. There they are.
That just screams you and Dustin.
I'm telling you, it is going to happen. I am getting one. This is not precognition. This is determination. I'm going to get one of those.
Plain old stupidity and just arrogance.
You're going to be riding with me and Dustin.
No, I'm not.
In that thing. Yes, it is going to be the official Three's Company plus 1Z PPR.
You two won't even be able to get that thing to start, like, let alone get it to go into gear.
That is going to be the official Three's Company plus 1Z PPR vehicle for all of our paranormal investigations. Y'all will have to ride in it. We're going to put sirens on top of it, Dustin, since it's the Ecto-Bago.
Just change the horn to a train horn to annoy everybody around you.
We're going to, like the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters, we're going to put some sirens on top of that thing. So you'll know when PPR's coming. We're going to put the sirens on, like, we're heading on an investigation. We are needed. We'll be topping that thing out at 35 miles an hour. You ready for that, Bethany?
No.
Oh. Well, you need to get ready. It's in your future. All right.
Not. The only, actually, what you were, the one last thought, the only other example that I could remotely use was a friend of mine who died. She had tumors at the base of her brain, and she had them since she was a child, and every year she would go in and have surgery done to relieve the pressure. And leading up to the last surgery, she kept saying, "I'm afraid. I don't know why. I'm terrified." And she died on the operating table. So we always wondered, you know, for, I don't know, people who are meeting their demise if they can feel it.
Yeah.
When it's imminent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a whole other topic of discussion. But yeah, you gotta wonder if that falls into this category. And thank you for sharing that, baby.
You're welcome.
So we're gonna go through and see who we've got in chat tonight that we can get it. Oh, hold on. I see Triple X Lady asked a question real quick. Let me answer that. The definition of precognitive recognition. So precognition is knowing an event before it happens. And we gave 7 strict parameters that precognition has to fall under for it to be considered legitimately pure precognition. Basically, what they all boil down to is the person cannot have any access to this knowledge beforehand whatsoever, whether it be through subconscious leading, whether it be through accidental information, even information that they could have been privy to that would have influenced the event. So all their knowledge base, it cannot connect the dots to it. It has to be something purely that comes from a pure precognitive thing where the consciousness is somehow gaining insight to this, and it cannot be attributed to any other type of previous knowledge or knowledge base. So that would be genuine precognition, pure precognition. Also, pure precognition, it cannot be linked to telepathy or clairvoyance in any type of way, because a lot of times this does overlap, and they do things in the experiments to try to determine and make sure that it wasn't telepathy or clairvoyance. Dean Radin, in his book, The Conscious Universe, goes into that in tremendous detail, much more than what I'm going to go into on the show. Always encourage y'all to pick up his book, Dr. Dean Radin, The Conscious Universe. Some great research was done for that book. But yes, that Triple X Lady is what precognition would be. So now we are going to go through chat, and it's time to pick a winner for tonight. So if y'all can help me out. I know Teresa has already won. So she's already won 1 week, so she won't be entered. She's already in there for the final drawing at the end of this. So y'all tell me who we've got that is in here and who's liked and shared, and I'm going to enter their names in. So I've got PW in. Who else?
Triple X Lady. Izzy.
Wait, hold on. You said Triple X?
Lady.
Yeah.
Izzy.
Hold on. Izzy. Let me put Izzy in there. Okay. Who else we got?
Camo Wiggler, 73.
That's Dustin. That's his
Jeez,
other
how
account.
many things of Dustin does he have in here?
He's everywhere.
Like, jeez. Kenneth. The Bud Files.
Okay, we got Bud. And we had, I remember Chairman.
Brad.
What'd you say?
Brad 32.
All right. And
PW, Paranormal Search.
Paranormal Search.
That's all I'm seeing, except for the many faces of Dustin.
Okay. PW, Triple X Lady, Izzy, Kenneth, Bud Files, Brad, Chairman, and Paranormal Search. Is that correct?
In there?
Do what?
Did you also put Kenneth in there and Camo Wiggler?
Camo Wiggler is Dustin.
Oh my gosh.
I have Kenneth in there.
I'm tired. Just ignore me.
Oh, Blondie.
Did you get the chairman too?
I did, baby. All right. Now, actually,
Your name.
we're going to have 2 winners for this week because last week's winner never claimed their prize.
Not funny, Dustin.
What did he do?
Look at my name.
Oh, the Clown Queen.
Oh, okay.
Art loves you.
Okay, just stop. All right, you know I hate that thing. Just stop it.
All
Do
right.
the thing.
Would you let me spin the wheel already?
Well, stop picking your nose.
All right.
Digging
We're
it.
going to spin it twice. We're going to do it twice. So we'll have 2 winners this week. So here we go with the first spin. All right. Triple X Lady. Let's put the godless link in there, or you can I know it's on the channel somewhere. And Triple X Lady, you can pick the Southern Discomfort issue of your choice. And I'm going to enter my email in for everybody. I can get this to work. So I put my email in there, Triple X Lady. If you will just email me and let me know which Southern Discomfort issue you want, it is yours for free. Let me go ahead and put her name on the list.
So why does Dustin have so many faces?
Ask him.
He's not answering.
Okay, so now I'm going to take...
Camo Wiggler is just a channel that I used as a backup, but I decided not to do anything with, but I kept it anyway. And then the reason why for YoBaby is because it's a duo. So anytime, like even if Zeke was to comment under the PPR, it would still pop up with YoBaby too, because on her channel, it's live. Like Teresa was over on YoBaby's channel earlier, that her comment still shows because they're linked.
So I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, Triple X Lady, just look through the link Dustin posted. It's got the Southern Discomfort issues on there, and let me know which one you want. PW asked if we had a theme for our wedding, and yes, it's going to be clowns and Winnebagos.
No.
Yes.
You want me to keep driving away from the venue? I just Okay, no, just
Okay, so I took Triple X.
Okay, I got the point.
I took Triple X's lady's name off of the wheel, and so now we're going to spin it again and get us another winner. So here we go. Kenneth. All right. Kenneth, email me at EzekielKincaid@gmail.com. So Triple X Lady is asking the title of last week's book. Do you remember which ones we mentioned? We mentioned several last week. I know the latest Southern Discomfort issue from August is The Executioner. And that is the one about, it's set in the future, and the guy invents a machine called the Endless, where he's able to capture people's consciousness at death, and he sends them to a computer simulated hell. And then there's The Door. That's Southern Discomfort issue 1. Tetramet Rising was issue 4. There's The Executioner. That's issue 2, Swallow. One Flesh. That's the body horror one. That one's Bethany's favorite. Yeah, that's Darius Fisher. That one is not a Southern Discomfort one, but it is one you can buy on that werewolf story is on Amazon. If you like werewolf tales, you'll love the memoir of Darius Fisher. Oh, Johnny Walker Ranger Demon Slayer. Yes, that one is on Godless to buy. Johnny Walker Ranger Demon Slayer is on sale right now. Volume 1 and 2 are on sale at Godless for dirt cheap. If y'all want to grab them. But you'll only be entered to win my full works if you grab them off of Amazon and rate them on Amazon. But if you don't care about that, you can get them for cheaper on Godless. It's just the nature of Amazon. It's like with Amazon, the more ratings you get, the more they drive your book up to promote. It's just how they do the algorithms and stuff. So if you buy it off Amazon and rate it, that helps me with that. But if you just want to get it for a couple bucks cheaper, then you can get it on Godless. But yes, Triple X Lady, The Door, that's the one you want. Just email me, so I'll have your email, and then I can send that to you. And I don't know if Kenneth is still on, Dustin. I know he pops in every week, but we need to somehow let him know that he won. And I'm going to put his name into the big drawing. So right now, our winners have been Misty, Teresa, Triple X Lady, and Kenneth. We still got a couple more weeks that we're going to be doing Psychic Phenomenon, so we'll have time for a few more winners. And then we will do the major drawing. Okay, thank you, Dustin. Oh, you're welcome, Triple X Lady. Absolutely. So we are going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Just a reminder to everybody, we will start Sunday Shots back up this Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. we are going to be diving into the book of Revelation. We're going to be looking at that extremely fascinating book. We just finished up going through sections of the book of Enoch. So we're going to continue with apocalyptic prophetic literature and hop into the book of Revelation. And I'm going to give you some stuff. Obviously, what I like to do on this show is give you stuff that doesn't make it into the mainstream, that people are not talking about. You hear and you see a lot in the mainstream about the book of Revelation that is just not true, especially from a scholarly perspective. So I'm going to be giving you some different viewpoints of the book of Revelation, and I'm going to be presenting a view that is pretty common among scholars, but somehow never makes its way down into the pulpit, never makes its way down into mainstream America. So we're going to try to expose you to some stuff that you have not heard or considered before. So come join us for that. We'll be back again for Southern Discomfort next Tuesday as we continue looking at precognition and prophecy. Boo Bear, Dustin, you got anything else before we...
No, I'm good on my end.
Yeah, I'm good on mine.
All right, y'all stick around because at the end of every show, we do like to play a very cool and inspirational video that Dustin has put together. So just stay around and we'll watch it to the end. Thank you, everybody in chat. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We love y'all. We're glad that you show up each week and listen and support us. And we're going to continue to pump out good content for you. We're going to continue to do our investigations in a professional manner and do it with integrity. And we are going to continue to love one another and treat everybody with love and respect that tunes in and comes into the chat. So, Dustin, you want to fire up that video or you want me to get it?
I got it ready to go right here.
All right, man.
There we go.
Is this what giving up feels like? I don't know, I don't know. Tell me, have I lost my mind? Nowhere to go, so far from home. Is this what giving up feels like? I don't know, I don't know. Tell me, have I lost my mind? So